have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
With Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, everybody. And can you hear it? Can you feel it? Can you taste it? It is the sound of freedom to the tune of a $40 million week at the box office. I'm going to be getting into that especially and why I think it's important. And that'll dovetail into Gibson, Donnie T, Dana White, and much more. And just how the media is reacting to this film. And I'm sorry, if you don't think there is a concerted effort to try to sabotage the success of this film, you're really not paying attention. And so many people can get into the cavies and, you know, the drums and the adrenochrome stuff. But I'm going to say it again. This movie is not that at all. At all. It is highly well done. And it's a powerful story. And that's why this kind of grassroots marketing campaign that I saw really continue to go mega viral over the weekend. So, you know, this is easily going to be $200 million movie. I can't imagine it had a budget of more than $20 million. I would honestly think that a $20 million budget on something like that would be extensive. But I could be wrong. Maybe with the marketing at the end, they threw another 5 or 10 in there. But again, it was viral marketing. And when you have The Guardian trying to equate it with the QAnon nonsense, and then all of a sudden for instance, I just want to show people this as we get moving and grooving here. I typed in Sound of Freedom. I went to the news tab in Google. First one. It's a superhero movie for dads with brain worms. That's the headline of a movie based on a true story where we're actually going to show you some of the clips of the actual sting of saving a bunch of kids in an organization that actually saves children. Okay? Look, it's got QAnon ties now. It's over the toppage. Over the top. It's no bueno at all. Okay? It's just crazy to me. And here's another thing that really bothers me about this. Again, $40 million box office opening. That's a smash hit right now for something that cost this much. Remember, they tried to sell you so hard on the multiverse and the Flash. And literally a movie starring a guy that has a bunch of charges and allegations surrounding pedophilia. While he claims to be non-binary and is on the art scene. They tried to sell you that movie. They couldn't sell you that movie. This movie, basically sold itself because there are so many people out there, and they're not on the fringes, that are concerned about this issue, and they should be. You know, we have modern day slavery now, globally. globally. Various levels. You can argue certain cultures have caste systems by virtue of their religion, enslaved women. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about straight up trafficked human beings that are work and sex slaves. That's real in 2023. It's absolutely real. This highlights something that happened over a decade ago, but continues to happen and continues to get worse. This is an issue. It's a real issue. It's not some kind of fake hardy-har issue. No. Modern day slavery exists, and the predator class, the powers that shouldn't be whatever, continually try to utilize this narrative that you and yours are the bad guys and enslaved another race. My ancestors, nope. Not at least, who knows how far back everything goes, but certainly had nothing to do with modern day slavery in this country. Zero. My grandparents on both sides are like pre-World War II immigrants. So, sorry. No, I'm not part of that. And you know what? It's funny because, you know, I'm pretty white up here right now, and I'm darkening up. And depending on where we are in the year and how much sun I've gotten, people think I'm this or that. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter at all. At all. Even if I had that ancestry. Let's say I come from a long line of plantation owners. Really bad people. I mean, they weren't even nice to their slaves. They're terrible, terrible people. My grandparents, great-grandparents, whatever. Why in the world would you put that on me? You know, later on in the program, I'm going to play, probably in the second hour, I'm going to play my boy Jens Pulver's acceptance speech into the Hall of Fame. It's like 12 minutes. There's a little bit of rambling in it. I'm going to try not to say anything, maybe break it up every few minutes or so. But it's one of the most powerful speeches. You know, it's not like I know Jens that well. I've called a couple fights with him. I have, interacted with him on the Twitch live stream that he does a watch along with the UFC. But he's always been super cool to me when I've run into him. And the speech really talks about, in my opinion, not only overcoming adversity, but you don't have to be what you came from. That's a huge misnomer of victimhood in society right now. I want to repeat that. You don't have to be where or what you came from, period. You are a human being, you have free will, and you can take the lessons learned as you grew, and you can gravitate towards them, or you can acknowledge when they were bad decisions, and you can use it as a life lesson for you. Okay? And I truly 100% believe that as individual human beings, we should be judged by others as such. Not the sins of the father or mother, period. It's crazy. It's nuts. I mean, anybody telling you otherwise, what's wrong with those people? Like, why would you want to divide? Right now, we are in a situation where there's a class of people telling the rest of us that you're not going to get to own anything. We're going to make basically every decision for you. Every one. Like, what are you talking about? They're telling you you're going to own nothing and be happy. That you're going to have a social credit score. What? You're going to have a social credit score? You're going to have a carbon credit score? And then they just decide what kind of medicine you take on top of it. What kind of food you eat. They're going to make meat history. We are making meat history. Yes. We did it. We did it. Woo. When I see something like that, it drives me beyond bonkers. So, you know, we had the quote unquote conspiracy talk, right? I want 2 stars, RogerEbert.com. I think that guy's Nick Allen. And this is why I feel like there's a concerted effort. Like, if he had given the film 3 stars and whatever and been more honest, sure. But the pompousness of this. And by the way, what I really don't like is when we were in the Guardian article. Okay, we're in the Guardian article. That literally attacked ourrescue.org as some kind of shady organization. You know, the ones that are saving kids when our government won't. When their government won't. And they were talking about them basically. I'm glad they didn't call them vigilantes, right? And they tried to say they work outside the law, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. They work with agencies in those countries. They do what they have to do to get the kids out. Man, it really bothers me. Oh, let's see. Sound of Freedom, the movie of the moment, has a message first and a story second. See, I would disagree with that. I would disagree. I think it tells a story first. It literally tells a story first. You know, I mean, from the opening of the film, the opening shot to the end shot, you know, kind of seal it into a bag. It's a story about this, you know, poor young girl and her family and, you know, the horrors of trafficking while one guy refuses to not try to save her. Wow. Let's see. Its message is to get us to care more about the horrors of child sex trafficking. It does that by showing queasy sequences of kids in danger, being carted around by slimy adults and making us remember everyone's faces. Then it gives us a weary hero, Tim Ballard, an American man whose superpower is that he cares. I mean, this is so trite. This father and husband cares so much that he leaves his job at Homeland Security 10 months before earning a pension. Instead of only catching pedophiles, as he has done nearly 300 times before, he goes to Colombia and undercover to help rescue children. This man is played by a gentle and gravely serious Jim Caviezel, who shoulders this message of suffering, just like when he played Jesus Christ in Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ. They couldn't wait to throw Mel in there and attack. They could not wait. They love it. Love it. The story is true, but it barely comes to life with such a telling. Not true. It's a good movie, which is a shame, not just because it's uncomfortable to be numbed by these themes, but also because director Alejandro Monteverde well clears the low bar of filmmaking one expects from movies that are message first and often come with similar faith-driven backers. Ooh, man, they don't like God. They don't like you exposing sex trafficking. Just, man. Take away the noise surrounding it, and Sound of Freedom has distinct cinematic ambitions. A non-graphic horror film with what could be called an art house sensibility for muted rage and precise striking shadows derived from an already bleak world. If Sound of Freedom were less concerned with being something important, it could be more than a mood. It could be a movie. Again, it's a movie. I promise. All on its own, Sound of Freedom is a solemn, drawn-out bore with a not particularly bold narrative stance. Caring about the safety of children is roughly the easiest cause for any remotely decent human being. Previous films like Gone Baby Gone and Taken have also banked on that tension, showing how easy it is to be invested in a story when children are stolen to put into uncertain danger. Now, let me stop that. I haven't seen Gone Baby Gone. And I haven't seen the Taken series other than the first one. The first movie's good. But it's a cartoon. We're going to come back to this in a minute. The first movie, and I can only imagine the second, they're cartoons, man. Like, they talk about Caviezel being a superhero. There's like one fight scene with him, with one person, a one-on-one fight scene. You know what that is? That's realistic. It doesn't go over the top. It's not John Wick. It's not Liam Neeson, just his special set of skills. That's a cartoon. Bruce Willis movies are a cartoon. This portrayed real events. With that being said, We're going to go to a word from our sponsor. We'll be back after this. It's Reality Rants over at redvoicemedia.com.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets, sleepwear, dog beds.
Whoa, Charles. Everyone now can get MyPillow products at huge discounts at MyPillow.com. That's right. Now's the time to go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our 3-in-1 sale. We're bringing you exciting new products, overstock specials, and closeout deals you won't find anywhere else. For example, when you buy one of our brand new MyPillow 2.0s, you get another one absolutely free. And with our overstock sale, you save 50% on our luxurious Giza Dream bed sheets. That's as low as $29.99 for the best sheets ever. And with our biggest closeout special, you get our all-season slippers for only $35. Or our sandals and slides for just $25. Quantities are limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
So we are going to go back to that article. But to get into the cover story here, the Gibson, the Trumpage, right? The Gibson and the Trumpage. But I mean, I'm just so happy about all this because, look, first of all, I'm happy that people like Dana White and others, and you're going to see this, like when I saw Dana White endorse the film, I was like, yes, awesome. And he even brings up what? He brings up Mel Gibson. He lets him speak in the thing. We're going to play the clip in a minute. Patrick Bet-David, Patrick Bet-David isn't perfect, but he's an interesting guy. He has a huge audience. He gave a glowing review of the film, and a real one. And Trump, again, love him or hate him, got to sit against the cage. Boy, am I jealous at one of the best UFC cards, maybe in history. Like, it's got to be a top 10 card in history over the weekend. What a card! What a card! If you're a MMA fan, or even if you're a casual, okay, one of those casual people, if you have ESPN Plus, you should watch all the way up to the main card anyway, and then just wait a couple weeks and you'll be able to watch the main card. Great. Trump standing ovations again with Dana White. People love him. Guys jumping up on the cage, right? And then you find out that Roger Stone here. Man, I thought I see this is killing me, dude. I thought I had the Roger Stone, the good one up. This is Stone. Let me see. What do we got here? Boom. This is Stone on Trump aircraft. Let's just go to Roger Stone's page, right? Are we on Roger? There it is right there. Boom. So that's Mel Gibson talking to Donnie T with Roger Stone right there. Now, I would imagine Roger Stone, he wasn't cage side, I don't believe. I didn't see him at the UFC thing. Maybe it's not his cup of tea. Maybe he was in the audience or whatever. Maybe he was with Mel. I have no clue, but people freaked out about this. So Stone's traveling with Trump. That's a news story unto himself. They don't want you to believe reality. That's another big problem with me in this post-truth world. I mean, first of all, they're telling you this is just a mood. It's not a movie. No, it's a really good movie. Okay? And Chuck Liddell had endorsed it before Dana. And I was like, watching that, and I was like, yeah, way to go, Chuck. And I hope more people who have seen the film do the same thing that all these guys are doing. Free advertising for it on social media. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. It's huge. It's big. So, who knows if Trump ends up talking about any of this stuff in future interviews. He may, because he knows that it plays to his base. We're going to go back to that review on two star review. And meanwhile, again, every time you type it in, just headlines bat for brainworms. If you have dads with brainworms, boomers. Here's my boy Chuck endorsing the film.
Can you believe there are millions of little children who are enslaved and are being sold multiple times a day, mostly to Americans? This must stop. We need warriors who are willing to fight to the death to rescue these kids, like the ones in this incredible true story. Everyone must see this movie. Go see what real warriors look like. Go see Sound of Freedom.
And here comes Dana doing it big.
Hey everybody, I'm Dana White. There's a new movie out called The Sound of Freedom, and it's about human trafficking. More importantly, the trafficking of children. This is a disgusting, horrific issue that's happening all around the world, and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give any of my UFC employees that wanna see this movie free tickets to go see, and I would like to encourage other executives to do the same at their company. Here's Mel Gibson with some more information on The Sound of Freedom.
So let's just pause it there before we go to Mel. And that's pretty awesome that he's doing that. And I love the pay it forward thing. That was very, very smart. You know, for I think it's like $8.50 you can pay it forward to somebody else. I might do it. So I like that. Look, I don't love everything Dana White's done, especially on the McGregor front. We've talked about it many, many times, but we have to be fair. And this is good. And I'm happy about it. Mel gives a short message, and then Patrick Bet-David gives a really glowing review of the film, and I think he's pretty smart and articulate about it, unlike the RogerEbert.com review.
One of the most disturbing problems in our world today is human trafficking, and particularly the trafficking of children. Now, the first step in eradicating this crime is awareness. Go see Sound of Freedom.
Look, whether you're a parent or you're somebody that has younger siblings or you got nephews, nieces, or you're just concerned about the direction America's going to, you have to go watch the movie Sound of Freedom. We were in Bahamas and we couldn't find a movie in any theater. And then finally we found a spot. We put the kids in the other room to watch Indiana Jones, and then we sat there ourselves and a few others. And from the beginning of the movie, you're going to feel the pain, the rage. There's going to be so many unique emotions you're going to have with the opening scene on what happens to the brother and sister and the father, and you're gonna say, that's real. Then when you see the statistics, 22 million new child pornography pictures uploaded on the internet just in the last year, a 5,000% increase in the last 5 years. And the whole concept about the fact that this is a $150 billion a year industry, like $150 billion a year industry, it says you sell cocaine one time, but you can sell a child 5 to 10 times a day for 10 years. Look how profitable that is. And just last year, 2 million kids were taken for human trafficking. Just this year, in the last 12 months. I applaud the guys who funded the movie. I know there was a crowdsourcing way of getting the money. Obviously, Jim Caviezel was the right guy for this. Tim Ballard being the story of it, behind it. Everybody has to go watch it. And the most interesting thing about it was who bashed the movie. Just watch the critics on how they're bashing the movie. Oh, this was just a cute, right? Like, what? What? What part of the message has to do with that? The stats are being given.
Let me stop it right there. And that's not only the stats. I had Tara Rodas on my other program. And this is somebody who worked for the government 17 years. They put her in HHS to start looking into some of these cases. Within a couple weeks, she starts realizing that these kids are just being sent off with whoever in this country and literally put into slavery. Here, in this country. Is that not enough to be concerned about? Who cares what church she does or doesn't go to? Who cares what party she does or doesn't vote for? It's not, when he says that, it's so spot on. Like, why are these people attacking the film? Attacking. Not able to give an honest review of it. Just attack.
From the federal government, and you're not defending people having to watch this to see what's going on to protect their kids? Very weird. Who recommends you go and watching this movie and who bashes the movie? All I need to know is, if you bash watching this movie, it says a lot about you. And those who support going and watching the movie, it also says a lot about you. All I'm saying to you is, go watch the movie. Spend 2 hours. At the end, not going to tell you what Jim says, but if you know, you know.
You know, I didn't stay for the Caviezel and his message after the film. I would assume that it was maybe a longer version of what went around in the trailer that we played. And then after the trailer, Caviezel talks for like a minute and a half. It's all, listen, all that stuff's important. But at the end of the day, you got to have something that other people want to watch, right? That other people can relate to, that is a gripping story. And they did that well.
Go watch the movie and see what Jim Caviezel says. At the end of the movie, don't walk out like many of us do. Stick around. 3 minutes after the movie ends, he gives a 3-minute message that you have to hear. So anyways, part that I'm excited about, as weird as this sounds, is the fact that there are more people in the media industry that are financing movies like this, that are talking about movies like this, that are not afraid to produce things like this. And we're learning. People are getting exposed. You gotta love what the media industry is capable of doing when it's held by right people, funded by those who are concerned about it. And that's why I'm confident, because I think more and more people are waking up, finding each other and saying, this is a fight I'm willing to fight for. It's worth fighting for. So anyways, long story short, go watch the movie. You are gonna be disturbed, but it's a good kind of disturbed that we all need to be. Only the paranoid survive. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Only the paranoid survive. I like that. I've never, again, I'm not a big Patrick Bet-David guy. I've never heard him say that. I've watched his interviews with the one like 80s mafia guy that was pretty much the head of the table in his family that survived. Everybody else is long dead. Interesting interview. But this is, look, when he talks about the media as well, what I'm excited about is the documentary film series that they're also producing right now with Ballard and the help of Gibson. Because I think if that's done well and you do the same type of market campaign as you do here, I don't know whether it gets in theaters or not. I don't know whether it really needs to. You know, that thing culturally, I'd rather see something like that as long as it's well done and it's true. Let me just say that. You know, anything that's not, obviously I'd be concerned about. But if it is those things, you know, why can't it be as viral as, say, Tiger King or Squid Games? Right? Like, people are always looking for something new to watch. And right now, with the writer's strike, really, there's not going to be a huge amount of content if it continues. And believe me, I think it's going to continue because of this AI phenomenon, right? And studios aren't going to back up off what is ultimately going to be way more profitable pretty much in the near future. And by the way, there's been a sighting of Jamie Foxx, apparently. I do want to show this, and I really do hope it's him. It's like a really blurry video. And there it is right there. That's supposedly Jamie Foxx. And people were yelling to him. You know, you decide. I'm gonna just pop it up here. We'll keep the whatever off. So allegedly that's Jamie Foxx with the watermark, and there's clearer shots too. So if that is Jamie Foxx, I'm super happy, and I'm glad that he's doing well. You know, right there, very much could be him. Low res image. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, guys. But I really do hope it is him. Oh, I want to get back to this because it's so bad. It's so bad. But while being so committed to such solemnity and suffering, the truncated storytelling by co-writers Monteverde and Rob Barr neglects to flesh out its ideas or characters or add any more intensity to Ballard's slow burn search for two kids in particular, Miguel and Rocio, whose faces haunt him. The true story framing only gives it so much edge. Before that, too, it's dulled. I don't think it's dulled. Again, this guy just goes on and on and on and on to bash it. Now, to the credit, there is nothing, QAnon-sensy about this. But at the same time, it's basically trying to come from this angle that, no, we're doing an honest review. It's just a really awful movie. It's not well made, and you shouldn't even bother going to see it. We're going to go to a word from our sponsor after that. We're going to show you a couple clips of the premium this weekend, including my conversation with John Paul Rice about Hollyweird. And at the time, Sound of Freedom, we didn't have the week box office of 40 million, but we did have 14 million taken on what? Indiana Jones. And, a film that should have been a mega blockbuster and is kind of not doing that great for how much they put into it. Back after this.
We interrupt today's programming to bring unfortunate news. Biden's dangerous plan for a digital dollar is underway. Don't be fooled. It won't benefit you. So take action now. The Federal Reserve's phased deployment of FedNow began on July 1st, 2023. Be prepared. This may catch many off guard and put your hard-earned assets in jeopardy. But here's the good news.
All right, guys, we are back. I apologize. I was going to say something to everybody. And wait, by the way, disasters might keep coming. So just so everybody knows, my electric here is terrible. I had a bad feeling this morning when I was hearing crackling. And I just didn't want to be like, hey, my power could go out. But hey, my power could go out again. I got to have another flash power. I'm still hearing it. I'm probably going to have to reset everything in the house. Let me tell you how fun that is. I can't wait to unplug everything in the house and flip every breaker and then wait. There's only got, calm. It's a talk show. So now everything I had queued up in my video list is gone. That's a pain in the butt. I'm not streaming anymore on my other platforms. That means I'm going to have to take those videos. I'm going to do this one. We're only at redvoicemedia.com or rvmrumble.com. Another great reason to do that. I'm going to bring up my downloads here so I can hopefully now get everything else I need into my folder that I was going to show people of. Here we go. That's great. And while I get everything back together, I'm going to play you a sample of the premium broadcast of myself and John Paul Rice talking about Hollyweird. You talked about Hollywood and where it's moving. I think it is moving towards that model, that A24 model, right? Where it's more of a low budget, a story, and there'll be that niche audience. And all this Hollywood blockbuster stuff, that's what they're trying to move to AI. We don't need directors for that anymore. We're going to have a project manager.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And on top of a project manager, we're not going to have to license all these actors because we already have their faces, and deepfake technology is now here. And, we're going to be able to go into their one-liners. I mean, it's going to be the ultimate meta re-acknowledgement, AI, almost an extension of what Scorsese calls the Marvel movies. Like, they're just an amusement park. And meanwhile, Scorsese, to his damn credit, is still making stories.
Yes. So you bring up a lot of interesting points. The one thing I would tell you is that for the industry with artificial intelligence and what the strike means and all that, what I'll get to is straight to the core, make it relevant to today. So imagine if you had a remake of a live action, The Little Mermaid, and you could switch out the Little Mermaid's avatar to whatever culture you wanted to see it in. So what we're talking about is live action or digital synthesized realities in multiple dimensions, multiple realities for all audiences.
Yeah.
It's choose your own adventure. So the video game is coming in. So the video games and the movies will merge. And in VR, you can be Maverick in Top Gun as Maverick playing the movie or the game of that, or be the fly on the wall. And you can change camera positions and watch the story unfold and go into alternative endings, realities. I mean, depending on how far you want to take it, it's going to be films and reality as we're going to experience it in the years to come is going to be far more immersive and invasive. There's pluses and minuses to that, but it's all about intention. And if you really look at the whole thing about this time, it's about feelings, the importance of feelings, and the feelings that are deceived by knowledge, that are co-opted by knowledge that is corrupted. So what we're talking about is a world of everything where people's authentic selves are being expressed in what they feel is real to them. And movies have always been They can be, but when art is authentically expressed in its truest form, you get the most authentic experience, a feeling that is a psychological experience, a spiritual experience in a sense.
Get the whole story on Red Voice Media Premium using the link below, completely uncensored and ad-free.
redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. Great thing about that, when you do the premium thing, guess what? It's not live, so I can't have a power outage. That's pretty cool, isn't it? That's pretty great that I can't have a power outage. Oh, nothing's going easy today. Nothing at all. That's all right. That's okay. All right. I want to shift gears away from Donnie T, Mel Gibson, The Sound of Freedom, all that other stuff. And I want to talk Toxins. Because allegedly now, Tucker's saying that before they were able to air an interview with a police official, I think Steven Sunder, he found out that, January 6th was crawling with feds. No kidding, Tuckins. No kidding.
They immediately recoiled when you asked any questions about January 6th. And that was a tip-off to me. I mean, I had no thought in my head as I watched this happen on television.
I sure did. Well, I was there.
And in the subsequent weeks, that U.S. law enforcement or military agencies had anything to do with it. That never crossed my mind. I never thought that it was a false flag or anything like that. I'm not a conspiracist by temperament. I never thought that. And then I interviewed the chief of the Capitol Police, Steven Sund, in an interview that was never aired on Fox, by the way. I was fired before it could air. I'm going to interview him again. But Steven Sund was the totally non-political, worked for Nancy Pelosi. I mean, this was not some right-wing activist. He was the chief of the Capitol Police on January 6th. And he said, that crowd was filled with federal agents. What? Yes. Well, he would know, of course, because he was in charge of security at the site. So the more time has passed, now it's been...
Oh, I honestly wish that we had a more extended clip of that. But the point is, of course, it was just filled with federal agents. At no point in time were there really anybody inside in government that were physically threatened. That's Johnny nonsense. That's made up. That's not real. The Muffin Man, a.k.a. the QAnon shaman, as soon as the Tuckins started playing the videos of him being led around by security, the outrage was such, and that's why the court of public opinion is actually extremely important, obviously. It was such that they had to let him out immediately. Immediately, they put him in a halfway house. That's the power of video. That's the power of media and somebody that was on television like the Tuckins. Unfortunately, even if he gets 10 times the views off of TV, they will marginalize that in a post-truth world and act like it doesn't matter. Period. Okay? That's the truth of the matter. Now, we're probably going to skip this break because we probably just had to watch a couple breaks. You got the VPN ad on there. We'll play that at the end, too. We're in the last segment of the first hour. I would tell you to come over to RVM Rumble, but it's the only place we're streaming right now. It's the only place we're streaming right now. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do editing and the dicka-dicka-do and the reposting, which I hate. Just real fun stuff today, this Monday. I'm just hoping that someone doesn't start knocking on my door from MetroNet because, they give you this. First of all, like last week, I had another issue with my internet. And they said something was going on with just my internet, which usually goes well. I tried to cancel. I literally tried to cancel this thing like a dozen times. That's how many times. And give them another date for them coming to check it up because they wanted to do it while I was on air. And just couldn't get another date. Could not. And then I went online to make sure that it was canceled. And it just said I didn't have any appointments. So if some dude starts knocking on my door, and my dog goes nuts, and I look a little flustered, and I don't know what to do, and I have to get up, and this is the worst show we've ever done in our lives, I apologize. Just want to openly apologize out of the gates for that. And now I've got to check out all of my...
All right, stand by.
See, look at that. That tab's no good. All right, here we go. We got some stories for you. Balenciaga designer Demna moans that he suffered after vile bondage-themed kids' clothing campaign and compares his clothes to Moderna. Yeah. The Moderna shoddy shot. You see that? He's the victim. He's the victim for literally having this, semi-CP ad campaign on children where there were like court cases planted in the photographs that were more than sympathetic to sickos. Oh, he's the victim. The campaign sparked widespread outrage for featuring inappropriate imagery of children in a sexually charged photo shoot with bondage-styled teddy bear bags. The storm over the campaign led reality television star Kim Kardashian to review her ties with the label, leading to plunging sales. The brand said any association was unintentional and has repeatedly apologized. Bull snap. He's the victim. Look, he's the victim. Oh my God. I mean, these people. Yeah, no, take a look. He's the victim. He's got scared looking children with BDSM bears. He's the victim. Okay? You got a Supreme Court CP ruling snuck in the photograph. He's the victim. Okay? He's the victim. Disgusting. He don't keep his word. Ex-Philly Mafia boss says skilled negotiator Trump shaved $1 million off Atlantic City real estate deal by flipping a coin and pushed mob to buy his art for the Art of the Deal book to bump it up bestseller charts. Billy D'Elia, who once ran the Buffalino crime family, says he was involved in negotiations with Donald Trump when he was building his Atlantic City empire. Now, if you've been listening to me for years, this won't come as any surprise to you. But I always reiterate this because before Donald Trump was president, Donald Trump was a gangster. A lot of people don't like hearing that. That's just reality. You don't build buildings, okay, in Atlantic City or anywhere, especially at the time where there is gambling and casinos, and especially New Jersey and New York, for construction without dealing with the mafia. That's just, you don't. That's not real. Okay? So when I used to say these things, and you got to remember, Roy Cohn was his lawyer who had connections to the mafia all over the place. This is just the real world, everybody. Okay? So you have to at least be in the real world. And the real world says that people clap and cheer Donnie T, but the real world also says that he cut deals with mob bosses. Okay? A former Philadelphia mafia boss claims in a new biography he was involved in negotiations with Donald Trump when the former president was building his Atlantic City empire. Billy D'Elia, who was known as Big Billy when he ran the crime family in the mid-90s, shared with journalist Matt Birkbeck how Trump once shaved $1 million off a deal to buy land for his Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino. Another time, D'Elia said, the presidential candidate had him buy millions of copies of his Art of the Deal book to push it to the bestseller charts in exchange for the sale of timeshares. That's an interesting one. He's just like he is on TV now, arrogant, D'Elia told Fox News. He don't keep his word. But Trump has never been charged with any criminal wrongdoing involving his casino dealings, and he passed the legal requirements to own and operate Atlantic City casinos, which are regulated by the New Jersey Casino Control Commission and its Division of Gaming Enforcement. Mobbed up. Mobbed up. A spokesman for the Trump 2024 campaign also denied any wrongdoing in a statement to Fox, saying he is not going to dignify a response to a book that belongs in the bargain bin of the fiction section. Is it the bargain bin of the fiction section? Take a look. Come on, guys. Here, let's play it.
You're going to be hearing a lot about Billy D'Elia. The feds say he was the longtime boss of the Buffalino crime family in Pennsylvania. Well, now a new book about him out this weekend details his life at the top of the American mafia. D'Elia was never a mob informer, but he says that his book includes revelations about what happened to Jimmy Hoffa to trying to do business with an Atlantic City casino owner in the 1980s who went on to a higher office.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Long before Donald Trump was president, he owned casinos in Atlantic City, and a new book says he did business with mobsters. You've met him?
Yes, a couple times.
What was he like?
Just like he is on TV now, arrogant, and he don't keep his word.
He does not keep his word.
No.
Billy D'Elia is the reputed former head of the Buffalino crime family in Pennsylvania.
Look at that
His
hair
new
right
book,
there.
The Life We Chose, William Big Billy D'Elia and the Last Secrets of America's Most Powerful Mafia Family, details his meetings with Trump in the 1980s. Matt Birkbeck is the book's author.
He's meeting with Trump. Now, Trump, when he did deals, he didn't want his lawyers doing it. He didn't want anyone else doing it. He did it himself, and he did them with gangsters.
He says Big Billy and Trump negotiated over phone cards that would show Trump's casino the Taj Mahal on them, and that Trump flipped a coin and saved $1 million on buying a parking lot near his Trump Plaza casino.
He said, $7 million, I can't give you $7 million. Well, that's what you said. The deal is $7 million. He said, I'll give you $6 million.
But when they had the meeting, he said, I'm not paying you that, I'm going to pay you less.
Yeah.
And what did they say?
What do you say? So they flipped the coin, and my friends lost. And what could they do? Sue him? You'd still be waiting.
So he'd still be waiting. Do you think Donald Trump is a man of his word?
No, but I just told you a story. If he promised you 7, gives you 6, is that a man of your word?
Do you trust Donald Trump?
No.
Seems the deals...
The mafia guy doesn't trust Donald Trump. It'll be interesting if this gets any legs. I think that the statute of limitations on anything that could have taken place with the mafia and Atlantic City is long, long gone. But you never know, right? You don't know. Who knows? I mean, this to me has more teeth than anything I've seen them try to bring up against him. I don't know if it has any teeth at all, but yeah, I mean, again, it's just the real world. Like if you're doing these things, you're dealing with organized crime. Period. 110%. All right, let's keep going down the line. This is oh, no, that's not the one I want. Not that I want this story. Here it is right here. Shocking moment. Pedophile drags suitcase containing 12-year-old girl in his flat to abuse her after snatching her off the streets of Brazil and telling her she would be his slave. Okay? Daniel Bitar, this guy. I mean, take a look. He's got a 12-year-old girl in a bag, in a suitcase. These are the monsters among us, man. That's just real. So don't tell me there's not even if this guy do this in broad daylight, can you imagine somebody like him with means and resources? Yuck. This is the shocking moment. A pedophile drags a suitcase containing a 12-year-old girl into his flat after kidnapping her and telling her she would be his sex slave. The footage captured in Louisiana, Brazil, shows 42-year-old Daniel Moraes Bitar struggling to put the suitcase behind him up 2 flights of stairs after he kidnapped the girl from outside her school on the 28th of June. Bitar kidnapped the child with his 22-year-old girlfriend, Gazili Souza Vera, who bundled her in their car and held a chloroform-soaked cloth to her face as he threatened her with a knife. Her legs were then cuffed and she was zipped up into a suitcase, which was placed in a boot as they drove a woodland area to dump her mobile phone. Oh my God. But Bitar was arrested and later confessed to having pedophile inclinations when the alleged victim's school friend rang police after witnessing the horrific kidnapping. This guy. Prison forever for both of them. Prison forever for both of them. The girl was found in the flat covered in bruises and chemical burns with her feet cuffed to the bed, according to police. Examinations conducted after she was rescued also confirmed she was sexually assaulted. Prison forever for both of them. Prison forever for both of them. They found electric shock devices, cameras, sex toys, and pornographic material. prison for the rest of their lives for both of them. That's it. Just, I don't know what else. I get really upset thinking about stuff like that, obviously. All right, we're going to cut to another premium clip. I think this is also with John Paul Rice. Check it out. Indiana Jones, something that was iconic during your and mine childhood and really throughout our lives, has been defeated by an indie flick that is shining the light on human trafficking, specifically child trafficking.
Yeah, it's interesting in hindsight looking at this. No one could have ever have predicted where we would be today. And 5 years after the beginning of the end of the Sound of Freedom production, which was in 2018, if I'm correct, that we would be here now where the world is in different ways waking up to this being a reality that's been going on for a very long time. And the awareness is the first step, and then the next step is what can I do? But to put this into perspective, what Sound of Freedom accomplished in its daily box office that was greater than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny on 4th of July, you have to consider not only the awareness of that movie being on a more limited scale, but the marketing dollars behind it being pennies compared to what Dial of Destiny had, plus its legacy audiences that it could siphon off of and bring into the theater.
Every aspect, not just the marketing. I mean, the budget, the Hollywood actor recognition. I mean, Harrison Ford, again, it might as well be a teddy bear. Like, everybody knows it's Mickey Mouse. You know what I mean? Everybody knows who this person is. On every level, this movie should have been defeated. But like you said, over the past, I would say 5 to 10 years, more people are starting to be aware, wait, there really is large-scale trafficking networks, and it is 2023. Why is this still happening? Why are kids being abused? Why are rich people being caught with them? Who's making the money here? And, this was an apolitical film on top of it, even though the media tried to smear it otherwise. I mean, it had literally everything going against it except for a grassroots audience and word of mouth.
And that's where... So this is really the new time that we're in, and it's not a this or a that. It's both happening at the same time, but it's a disruptive time and a turbulent time for corporations and banking institutions and all of this, let's just say stasis, or the same old is not working anymore. And in which case, what we're really talking about is a revolutionary period in our culture that's going to split in two, but a new one that will emerge where niche audiences, in this case for the Sound of Freedom, niche audiences in a production that is scaled to meet the demands of that niche audience. This is not their first go around with Angel Studios doing crowdfunding, crowdsourcing. So they're proving that this model works when you do films well and tell stories that are relevant and have a social aspect to them, not a social political issue, but a social aspect to them, a conscious human aspect, a story that is universal. Even though the subject matter may be foreign, there's themes in there that are universal. That's what is missing in Hollywood. They don't have authentic universal expressions anymore. They have absolute value deliverances of this is culture, this is society, this is the audience that we serve. And they call it modern audiences, but that's really a very small culture of people that they're talking to and about. And they're not using the universal story of redemption or transmutation or transcendence in their characters anymore. They are declared virtuous by the fact of what they identify as on the screen. So it's a revolutionary time, but it's not going to be known until after what we're really about to witness is the collapse of an old model in a system which is very top heavy, has exorbitant costs, and there's going to be two worlds that divide in this way. One is going to go with artificial intelligence to scale up human inefficiencies and make up where basically narcissists can't be creative. That's essentially what it's there for. And then the second part is this divine truth that's being told, and it's gone through these cycles in time. If you go back to It's a Wonderful Life, and my God, I'm forgetting his name, the director. But what we're talking about is the return to that part, which is universal divine truths about human beings on this planet dealing with extraordinary circumstances that take them into another time and place that they've never experienced before, outside of themselves. They have almost a disassociative event that occurs. It's the hero's journey. It's Luke Skywalker.
It's storytelling again.
Get the whole story on Red Voice Media Premium using the link below, completely uncensored and ad-free.
We love the internet, but the internet is tracking everything you do. Take control of your online privacy with IPVanish. People with malicious intent are everywhere, watching you. Criminals can hack your Wi-Fi, while broadband providers and advertisers monitor your data. With IPVanish on your device, your internet activity is encrypted. No one can see what you're doing. Your location, your connection, completely hidden. Protect your internet privacy today with IPVanish.
RVMVPN.com. So this is a story that I get into with my friend Todd McGreevy, rcreader.com, and he also has if you like a paper publication, again, this is supporting real independent journalism, even if you're not local. There are, a lot of national stories. In fact, one of the stories I want to go over, I'm actually going to read, is from Todd's wife, Whose Common Agenda. And, the political cartoons that he has printed in there, this is from Ed Newman, who is an ex-Hanna-Barbera animator. Like all the stuff that at least I grew up with in reruns. And, it's funny, when I saw this like Hydra AI thing, see, we told you AI would create more jobs than it would eliminate. We're not going to play the clip again, but if you watch the premium, the full one, we are going to play some clips from that. I noticed that all these guys are basically, if you especially see this guy with the oil for the AI, they're robot polishers. But remember, Klaus told us, not everybody, when he's talking to Klaus Nutzschwab, not everybody can be a robot polisher. Oh, you can't all polish the robot. So we're going to talk about that, but this is a big story. I didn't realize it, and this is in my neck. This is literally where I live, the Quad Cities in Iowa. And look how many PSAs I have here, supposedly, in my water supply. It's almost double that of Miami, Florida, Jersey, Philly. It's more than double Philly by a lot. It's almost triple Philly. And New York, believe it or not, isn't even in the top 10 with these PFAs. Now, it's a big concern. And it's not just those pollutants and these toxins. I get into it with Todd about fluoride, for instance. So we're going to play that clip right now. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share if you're watching over on the Rumble stream. And remember, guys, the Rumble stream goes all the way till 8:30 p.m. with a number of other great hosts here at redvoicemedia.com.
If that was released in the air or put into the water directly, it would be a fine. It would be illegal. But they capture it and bottle it and put it into containers and sell it to water companies across the nation. As we both probably already know, maybe your audience already knows, North America fluoridates more people than the entire world combined with the water supply.
I mean, they even tell you right here, and this is actually the contract you made me aware of all the way back in the day in 1952, where they make this with the city of Davenport. I want to read this verbatim for people so they understand. This is number 6. Yeah. To instruct properly all waterworks personnel in the hazards and special precautions necessary in handling sodium fluoride and to provide adequate protective equipment against the inhalation of toxic dust by the operators. They are telling you it is 100% toxic in this concentrated form. It's right there. It's sodium fluoride. We talk about fluoride as a chemical. This is not natural calcium fluoride. You know, I come from upstate New York, and Saratoga has this famous spring, Todd. And in that spring, you get the Saratoga water. And they don't, quote unquote, fluoridate it because they have natural calcium fluoride in it. So they don't even have to label what the portions are because it's from actual nature. This is highly different than a byproduct of aluminum smelting that has a outward toxic aspect to it that has literal death's heads on the bags that they then produce to put into the water supply. Am I correct in all that?
You are correct in all that. And the nuance here that's worth discussing, and I encourage people, if you want to learn more about it, you can go to rcreader.com/tags/fluoride. And there's our coverage of it, which we are remiss. We haven't covered it for years. We used to be hot and heavy on this, and I'll try and keep this short and sweet. But what we did, it took me 6 months to get that contract that you showed up on the screen. I had to harangue the Iowa American Water Company here, which is actually not owned by an Iowan or an American. It's owned by a German multinational corporation. But their headquarters in North America was out in New Jersey. And finally, their legal team finally got back to me and gave me, that's the original contract back to 1952 with the Iowa Department of Public Health, the city of Davenport, and the Iowa Water Company is what it was known back then. So it was a three-way contract to, lo and behold, it's in the 50s and age of enlightenment here. We're gonna put this neurotoxin in the water supply, and it's going to help your teeth. It's amazing. And that way, all these industrialists that don't have a way to get rid of it had just they can sell it. It's just perfect. Now, the key here is that back then in the 50s, it was the spec was sodium fluoride, which is known as a pharmaceutical grade product, is what I'm told. What we wanted to do back in the about 2013 and 14, when we were looking at this really closely, was with our local city council, just ask them to look at the four corners of the contract and how often was it getting tested for parts per billion, and what were you using? And you're not using sodium fluoride anymore. You're using hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a neurotoxin that the CDC themselves, a couple years prior to that, in the mid 2000s, actually issued a warning and said, if you are using powdered baby formula and tap water, don't use distilled water. Don't use tap water for your baby formula, because the parts per billion at the time, which was 7 parts per billion, I think was the number of hydrofluorosilicic acid, which was acceptable, was too high for infants because it penetrated their brain blood barrier.
Get the whole story on Red Voice Media Premium using the link below, completely uncensored and ad-free.
This man is Jean-Baptiste Pierre Antoine de Monet Chevalier de Lamarck. In 1809, 50 years before Darwin published The Origin of the Species, he wrote what is widely recognized as the first comprehensive theory of evolution. His book, De Philosophie Zoologique, introduced the notion of an internal code within every living thing, which, when passed down through successive generations, defined the physiological characteristics of a species. At the center of Lamarck's theory laid what he called the adaptive force. He believed that the experiences of an organism during its life modified this internal code, and upon reproduction, this modified version was passed down to its young. Whilst not biologically accurate, and ultimately superseded by Darwin's theory of natural selection, the epigenetic theories put forward by him are beginning to find new homes in unexpected places. When we use contemporary technology, a trail of information is created in the form of data. When analysed, it describes our actions, decisions, preferences, movement, and relationships. This codified version of who we are becomes ever more complex, developing, changing, and deforming based on our actions. In this regard, this ledger of our data may be considered a Lamarckian epigenome, a constantly evolving representation of who we are. This is Bill Hamilton, one of the most significant evolutionary theorists of the 20th century. His work studying the social structures of ants, bees, and wasps had a profound effect on our understanding of the role of genes in social behaviors such as altruism. He believed, and went on to prove, that the driving force behind evolution was not the individual, but the gene. He stated that the ultimate criterion which determines whether a gene will spread is not whether the behavior is to the benefit of the behavior, but whether it is to the benefit of the gene. In the mid-1970s, the British evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins built on the work of Hamilton and others to popularize the concept of the selfish gene.
So, I apologize. I was muted as I read the common dreams. Today is the biggest disaster of a broadcast. I just got yet another text message that I was right, that this technician that I tried to cancel a dozen times is still going to be coming here. Man, sometimes it's just not going that well. But I would encourage people to read that article. I would also encourage people to understand that we keep talking about evolution and basically all these things that defy any kind of notion of God. Dawkins, staunch atheist. You just talked about Darwinism and the predecessor to that. This is the selfish ledger. This is how these people think.
In his book of the same name, he introduced the notion of a gene which, whilst devoid of any motives or will, could be metaphorically and pedagogically described as if it were. In this model, the individual organism is a transient carrier, a survival machine for the gene. User-centered design principles have dominated the world of computing for many decades, but what if we looked at things a little differently? What if the ledger could be given a volition or purpose rather than simply acting as an historical reference? What if we focused on creating a richer ledger by introducing more sources of information? What if we thought of ourselves not as the owners of this information, but as custodians, transient carriers, or caretakers? Initially, the notion of a goal-oriented ledger may be user-driven. As an organization, Google would be responsible for offering suitable targets for a user's ledger. Whilst the notion of a global good is problematic, topics would likely focus on health or environmental impact to reflect Google's values as an organization. Once the user selects a volition for their ledger, every interaction may be compared to a series of parallel options.
I want everybody to think about what they just said there. It's up to Google's values. Now remember, they with basically plausible deniability and the United Nations, the World Health Organization, developed those. But we're talking about a techno-fascistic future for everything, especially the biomedical, right here through their quote-unquote AI. I mean, this might even be older than 5 years. I forget how old the selfish ledger is, but they were getting you ready. To help with the resolution, Google will need to access your data. You can turn this off at any time. Read more info here. And that's just, it's baked into everything now.
If one of these options allows the ledger to move closer to its goal, it will be offered up to the user. Over time, by selecting these options, the user's behavior may be modified and the ledger moves closer to its target. As this line of thinking accelerates and the notion of a goal-driven ledger becomes more palatable, suggestions may be converted not by the user, but by the ledger itself. In this case, the ledger is missing a key data source, which it requires in order to better understand this user. In order to plug the gap in its knowledge, the ledger begins searching for a device which delivers the required data when used. From this list, the ledger begins sorting the options most likely to appeal to the user in question. In situations where no suitable product is found, the ledger may investigate a bespoke solution. By analyzing historical data, it is increasingly possible to discern qualitative information such as taste and aesthetic sensibility, which may...
Notice it says qualitative information. This is basically the precursor to the AI that they're rolling out. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. It's out there fetching data on its value sets.
May be used in the creation of a design proposal. With the advent of technologies such as CNC milling and the emergent possibilities of 3D printing, a custom object may be created to trigger this user's interest. In this way, the ledger is able to plug gaps in its knowledge and refine its model of human behavior. User data has the capability to survive beyond the limits of our biological selves, in much the same way as genetic code is released and propagated in nature. By considering this data through a Lamarckian lens, the codified experiences within the ledger become an accumulation of behavioral knowledge throughout the life of an individual. By thinking of user data as multi-generational, it becomes possible for emerging users to benefit from the preceding generation's behaviors and decisions. As new users enter an ecosystem, they begin to create their own trail of data. By comparing this emergent ledger with the mass of historical user data, it becomes possible to make increasingly accurate predictions about decisions and future behaviors. As cycles of collection and comparison extend, it may be possible to develop a species-level understanding of complex issues such as depression, health, and poverty.
Again, notice it's all in the benevolence that, if you let us surveil you on every single level, then we're going to be able to get rid of poverty and disease and everything. We're here to help. We love you. So just give us all your information.
Our ability to interpret user data, combined with the exponential growth in sensor-enabled objects, will result in an increasingly detailed account of who we are as people. As these streams of information are brought together, the effect is multiplied. New patterns become apparent and new predictions become possible. Since the 1970s, huge efforts have been made in sequencing the human genome. Today, after many years of research and billions of data points, that sequence is known. By adopting a similar perspective with user data, we may begin to better understand its role. Just as the examination of protein structures paved the way to genetic sequencing, the mass, multi-generational examination of actions and results could introduce a model of behavioral sequencing. As gene sequencing yields a comprehensive map of human biology, researchers are increasingly able to target parts of the sequence and modify them in order to achieve a desired result. As patterns begin to emerge in the behavioral sequences, they too may be targeted. The ledger could be given a focus, shifting it from a system which not only tracks our behavior, but offers direction towards a desired result.
Offers direction towards a desired result. It's not just track, trace, database. We want to direct you to a certain result. It's called social engineering.
We are at the very beginning of our journey of understanding in the field of user data. By applying our knowledge of epigenetics, inheritance, and memetics to this field, we may be able to make mental leaps in our understanding, which could offer benefits to this generation, to future generations, and the species as a whole.
These people believe they are gods, and they get to direct, let me repeat this, the species as a whole. All right, I want to go to this clip of myself, and I feel awful because, man, it just pisses me off because this article, I sat here, I read like 3 paragraphs. I read 3 paragraphs. It's an amazing article. It deserves to be read. And it's talking about this common agenda for a CBDC based on a track trace database programmable token system. Okay, it needs to be heard. Let's make sure that I have the right one. I see the fluoride. I see the storytelling. I see that. I don't have the right one. There it is, concrete. And this is myself and Todd McGreevy discussing basically the hydrofluoric acid.
4 different hazmat teams that had to show up for this thing because this hydrofluoric acid spilled on the ground. It ate a hole through the concrete.
All right,
That's
let's check it out. This is back in 2011 in March. This is in Moline across the river.
Yeah, see if it'll play.
First tonight, hazmat crews from all across our area responded to a chemical leak this afternoon in Rock Island. The chemical was so strong that it was burning through the concrete there. News 8's Christy Mergenthal has the latest.
It was just before 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon when hazmat crews were called to the Rock Island water treatment plant for a chemical spill coming from this tanker truck.
It's a corrosive agent that the water treatment plant uses, and there was an overflow that caused spillage out from the building onto this driveway behind me.
As plant employees evacuated, crews began suiting up, working quickly to stop the leak that had begun eating through concrete.
And they stopped the leak using some earthen berms with dirt, sand, and some commercial boom equipment, and had it contained pretty much to this facility within a short amount of time.
The chemical hydrofluorosilicic acid is used to add fluoride to the plant's water. Although it poses a burn risk to skin, those living nearby were in no immediate danger.
There's no inhalation hazard at all, so there was no need for us to evacuate any residents around the area.
After several hours, crews were able to clean up the leak, allowing operations to return to normal.
They had to cordon off the area, obviously, but as far as the treatment of the water and the amount of water being used by the public, there's no effect on that at all.
Oh, fantastic.
In Rock Island, Christy Margathal, WQAD Quad Cities, News 8.
It's corrosive. It's toxic. There's nothing to see here.
We're living in the post-truth world. We have for a very long time. And you know what? That's funny. I'm glad you brought up kind of Alex Jones in that context, because I remember when I watched 9/11: The Road to Tyranny, and there was so much in there not about 9/11. It was really a New World Order picture. I didn't know anything about the guy. I didn't know he made the Destroyed by Design series, and there was some stuff from those in there and all this other stuff. But one of the things I remember him saying was he talked about fluoride and aspartame in both of those, and I don't know if you saw it, but the World Health Organization, the authoritative source, Todd, is about to name aspartame finally as a possible carcinogen.
I did not know that.
So here, let's bring it up. I know my audience knows that we've been covering it here, but right here. So remember, we can sit here and talk about this for 20 plus years doing our own quote unquote research.
Uh-oh.
Okay. And we're the bad guys. But now, since the World Health Organization, their cancer group says it's possibly carcinogenic to humans, oh, wow, really? Is it?
Imagine that.
Forget about the fact you were talking Alzheimer's, brain damage, nerve damage, the whole shebango. The bottom line is, guys, I hate to tell everybody this, and I'm guilty just as much as everybody. I'm trying harder to keep it under control. I'm in the tank top today, guys. You notice it's a farmer's tan. We're gonna go out and try to get some sun, walk the dog after. But things that are ultra sweet that don't come directly from nature are not fucking good for you. Now, sugar, I mean, again,
not so much.
I mean, think about it. I mean, not as much maybe, but at the same time, you have to remember that you had this industry, the sugar industry, trying to say everything was salt's fault and eggs and cholesterol and all these other things, when really it's sugar that harms your immune system, okay? Sugar that will make you diabetic. Sugar that will, literally cause heart disease. All those things. I mean, forget about the weight gain. So many things. Now, you look at the other stuff that they fixed it with. Doesn't do anything good for you either.
Yeah.
I remember NutraSweet back in the day. And I remember then my uncle actually had a health food store. And number one, he would say chocolate, all that sugar was terrible, but it was even worse what they replaced it with. He'd always try to give us like the carobs, the carob chocolate or whatever it was, and then cane sugar, if anything, sodas like back in the day, but even those weren't that sweet. Smart guy. And we all laughed at him. That was Chucklestown. So now they're admitting that aspartame is bad, maybe. Maybe in 20 years they'll actually admit it's really bad. Mm-hmm. And you wonder, can that ever happen with something like quote-unquote fluoride, sodium fluoride? the acid that eats through the streets, and people have to wear hazmat suits to clean.
Attention Americans, breaking news.
So there you have it. Again, another great premium piece. And, you know, alternative media needs that kind of thing. Here is my boy Pasta, whose channel, The Convo Couch, largely deals with elections and election integrity. And he waited 6 months for YouTube to review his channel to tell him that what? He's harmful content, just like we are. We're harmful content. We deal with controversial issues. I've never harmed anybody. Pasta's never harmed anybody. But this is the post-truth world.
So YouTube finally answered my last application back for monetization. They finally responded. It only took 6 months. It usually takes a month, but they finally responded. But look what they said this time. Your channel wasn't accepted for monetization because harmful content. Harmful content. What harmful content does the Convo Couch put up? Elections, COVID information. Still doing it. They don't give a damn.
They do not. That is the way of the world, unfortunately. And I promised we were going to play the Pulver. We are going to play the Pulver. Hopefully it'll overlap with this technician coming here and me kicking him out. I hate an automated system. I should have called it in, but I didn't feel like I had the time, getting ready for the show and everything. And now just take a look at, the disaster of a show we had today. And I want to apologize. This is my boy, Jens Pulver, giving his Hall of Fame speech, really bringing it home, talking about really becoming a champion outside of a broken home with a drunk and abusive father.
All right. Yeah, I'm back there crying like 3 or 4 times. I love you all. I'm back there getting teary-eyed. I'm going to roll from the hip. I had this thing memorized, but I knew, man, I might forget this thing a few times around, so bear with me. I'm nervous. No, but the reality is, I love you all. Y'all, time. The biggest thing, time. Money can't buy it. We always wish we had more. And the fact that you all come in here and you give me your time, greatest gift on the planet. I love and appreciate y'all. A lot of people probably been wondering what it is I've been doing for the last few years. I've been running the UFC Twitch stream Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern, watching fights, breaking them down. Saturday, actually, this Saturday, I'm going to be doing a watch along. I got a guest. TSM Vis now, and my man Boss Rutan. So make sure you check it out, Twitch TV/UFC. One of the things, I love it. One of the things, though, the most important part is I get to talk to chat. That's my favorite thing to do. If you know about me, they call me the Pause King because I'm going to stop and I'm going to rap to chat all day. I love it. And I get asked 2 questions more. And the first one is, is there somewhere in your past, if you could go back, is there a fight that you would like to go to? Is there something that you would do differently? And for the longest time, yeah. Oh, I would just start ripping them off. I would this moment, I want to change this moment. Yep, I would do this. But as I started getting into this stream and I started hanging out with chat more and I started watching fights, I started breaking things down. I started becoming whole and I started becoming fixed. I went on a losing streak at the end of my career and I started to heal and I started to fix myself up to now when I'm sitting there, I tell them all, no, I wouldn't change anything. Because if any one thing in my life would change, I wouldn't be standing right here, right now, talking to all of you. And this is incredible. And it leads me to the one when we talk about anxiety and depression, something I battled with for a long time, anxiety and depression. And I learned, never close the door on the person you're going to be in 5 years, because time will be different. Those problems, those memories will change. If you're busy growing your world, those problems will get a lot smaller. Never close the door and do something drastic. I love you. Believe me, I love all of you. I love you very much. And so what I need to do right now, if you'll all bear with me, you see, man, like the movies where somebody says, hey, let's go back in time and talk to the younger you. And if they did, they would say, don't do this, make sure you don't do this, and buy Bitcoin. I'm like, of course. But what I want to do is something different. I want to go back and I want to say thank you. Thank you for not pulling that trigger. When I was a sophomore, I was coming home from Thanksgiving one time, and my father, who we had just separated, I had an abusive father. I grew up in an abusive home, and I had a dad, and he was standing, we were in the van, but we said, yeah, you can come with us, and we all went for Thanksgiving. And along the van ride home, he's standing over the top of me. He's yelling at my brother. He's standing over the top of me. My middle brother's right here. And he looks down at me and he goes, and if you open your mouth, I'm going to drill. And he, boom, he hits me. And I pop up and I don't know what to do. I'm a little guy, man. I'm in there throwing down. And yep, I just seen your mom. Dang it. I was hoping to, boy, damn it. So now my mama, and so there I am. I'm trying to stand up and I'm trying to throw with him and I'm trying to move. My dad is wailing on me, just beating the brakes out of me. My mom, poor woman, is in the driver's seat trying to shoo the kids, like, stop, man. And she's trying to figure out how she's going to get this van pulled over. And she's like, trying, trying to figure this out. Like, you guys relax. And finally she gets it over just about the time that my dad throws me right out the back of the van. Boom, I hit the street and he's on me and she comes and pushes him off. Get off him. And he'd been drinking so much that he finally was like, F this. He had a broken nose. He said, I'm done with this. And he went and sat in the passenger seat, and my mom drove me to he had an injury from a horse that had clocked him in the nose, and I happened to dent it twice, and so he bled everywhere. When I got, my mom went into this gas station, I was covered in blood. I remember the lady screaming, oh my God, oh my God. She thought I got shot. My mom's like, no, it's okay, relax. And she's taking me into the bathroom to clean me up. And she looks at me, and I'll never forget this. I'm sorry, Jenzy. I'm sorry. And I looked at her and said, it's okay. To hell with that guy. To hell with him. Who cares? That night when we got home, I was done with life. That was it for me. I didn't want to live another day. I was it. And I held on to that shotgun, man, for about an hour. And so if I could, I'd like to go back in time. And I'd like to sit down with little Jens. And I'm going to mess up when I'm talking to little Jens because I'm going to pop into the eyes as I do the you. So bear with me. But you ever see in those shows where you get to see that and you could talk to them? Well, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk to little Jens. And I want to tell him, thank you. Thank you so much for not pulling that trigger. You go on to win a state title. You win 2 state titles and a runner-up. You get a scholarship to Boise State University. And you flunk out. But that's a good thing because you go to junior college. Yeah. You go to junior college and you become a genius. You get a 3.8 GPA. You become an All-American wrestler, but you get a 3.8 GPA, and then you go back to Boise, and you're going to finish what you started. Back to Boise State to go to school, but this time you want to fight. Wrestling was great. I loved wrestling, but what if I could throw in those punches? And I got this thing called MMA. I'm hooked. I love this. Vandy Couture. Yeah, I'm in. Right? So now they're like, all right, well, we're gonna go to this Boss Shooting Invitational. And the first fight, I go out there and I'm fighting at 170. No time limit, 170 pounds. The first guy, I'm like, oh, I like this, just punching people. The next guy, we fight, I think 22 minutes, and I'm stomping him. I'm just throwing knees and I'm beating him. There was an old fight, Tank Abbott and his opponent. Tank got choked out, but the guy he fought was just wrecked, And that's what happened to this kid. I beat the dust on him, but he went down after my foot, and I'm like, you ain't never taking me down like this. What is this? I'm like, what? Heel hook. I didn't know about these damn things, really. I was still wearing tennis shoes and stuff. I had wrestling shoes. The only difference between me fighting and wrestling practice, I took my T-shirt off. So this time, I talked to John Peretti. John Peretti was the matchmaker of the UFC back when it was owned by SEG. And he says, he goes, look, you got the power when you hit him, but you got to figure out how to finish these guys. You beat that kid everywhere. So I want you to come back, and I want you to do this again. Okay. So I come back again a couple months later. I'm back in the Boss Shooting Invitational. This time, that's the first guy. There's the second guy. I'm like, like that? And he goes, just like that. I want to start this 150. You. See, I got into this. This is the part. You, little Jens. I look at you, Joy. I remember. You, little Jens. You're going to go on and you're going to start this 155-pound division. I want you to fight at UFC 22. I'm like, and you're going to say, yeah, I want to do it. I want to do this fight. So then you're going to go out to your fight. Later on, because there's so few shows, you're going to fight again, and this time you're going to fight a kid named Dean Thomas in the what was it, WEF? I can't remember what it was. I think it was, but WEF, I think is what it was. And Dean, I haven't been beat yet. Dean, same thing, reaches down in there, grabs a foot, snaps it. I'm like, man, these heel hooks in me, these heel hooks in you, son. You're going to hate this. You need to work on those, little Jens. You need to figure these things out. It's time. These heel hooks are not your friend. But what you're going to do is you're going to limp around, you're going to have this burn, and you're going to get an opportunity to fight a guy named John Lewis. And when you go out there, Pat Miletich is going to grab you by the hands, even though you can't walk and you're bedridden for most of this training camp. You're going to go out there because you have to. Because you need this fight, because there's so few fights and you have to take this fight. I'm going to put your teammates and your friends in your right hand, and I'm going to put your family, I'm going to put your mom and your brothers, I love you, Abel, and your sister, Jamaica, I love you, Jamaica, and you're going to hit this mother so hard, you're going to change your name. I walked out there, 11.5 seconds later, I became Little Evil. I think Goldie thought they called me Little Eagle at first, soaring high, landing backstage, but it was Little Evil. There was a big thing because with that, Dana White, Lorenzo, and Frank Batista are going to be watching this fight. And they're going to say, we need this guy. We need you, little Jens. We need you to go over to Japan with us. Now you're on a plane. And you've never seen nothing like this. You're on a private jet, and you're out there, and you're flying to Japan, and they're going to have this fight between Karo Uno and Rumina Sato. Rumina Sato is the scariest individual I've ever seen. I like to say that when I'm streaming. You ever seen in your life, he can submit anybody, and Uno's going to beat him. And then Dana's going to look at you and go, that's who you're going to fight for the first ever UFC lightweight world title. Because when you're going to be the world champion in the UFC, you're going to be considered the best on the planet. And we just went and found you the best. So then you're going to be in the Atlantic City, the Trump Taj Mahal. And you're going to be wondering, can I do this? Can I do this? And you're going to be scared. And you're going to think about it all day, all week. And 5 rounds later, you're going to become the lightweight champion of the world in a weight class that you created. And the weird thing that's going to happen is you're going to wake up. You're going to wake up that night, in the middle of the night, and you're going to think it was all a dream. You're going to wake up in a panic. But you're going to look over to the right and see that belt, because you bet your butt you slept with that belt the first. Now, of course, you cuddled right next to it. You cuddled right next to it. So if I can, little Jens, before I leave, I just want to tell you, thank you again for never closing the door on who we become. Thank you for having the courage to go out there and represent for your mama, your brother, and do something that most people didn't think you should do. Thank you, and I love you, you little pioneer. And I tell you this, you're really going to love the way life turns out. So just keep living, keep kicking ass. I love you, little gents. And all of you, thank you so much.
So good. Just so good. Everything about it, so good. Powerful story. Again, you don't have to come, or you don't have to be where you came from. I keep saying it because it's so real and it's so well illustrated right there. All right, I promised in the beginning of the broadcast, since we started with the Sound of Freedom, that we were going to show the actual footage from the rescue. And then I have this CNN clip where, you better believe it, they're attacking Sound of Freedom. Shocking.
54 boys and girls aged 11 to 18 were ushered in for what had been billed as a sex party. They were given candy and drinks and told to wait in this small room.
This little 11-year-old boy, I remember, he asked one of my operatives if they could give him some cocaine or something. He said, they usually give me something because I'm really scared.
By the time the deal was done, the alleged traffickers were set to make $25,000. That transaction was never completed. 25 Colombian special operatives stormed the party, arresting 5 suspects, 4 men and 1 former beauty queen, all charged with child trafficking. The victims, 29 of whom are under 18, were evacuated, given medical exams, and placed in a rehabilitation center where specialists are working to undo the damage.
Right before I got on the boat, we had to walk by this room where the kids were, and they put their hand up. And I touched their hand and see that there's liberation now.
Liberating one child at a time.
That's CBS then. You think they dare put something like that out on this movie now? Here's CNN and the desperate attempt to make this about what? The QAnon sense.
And you seem pretty familiar with him because he doesn't really hide his association with this real wild plot that involves, drinking the blood of children and things like that.
No, it doesn't involve drinking the blood of children. There is no wild plot. Just total lie.
No, he doesn't hide it at all. And you have a lot of people who are in this world of QAnon who say, oh, they don't know what that is. They've never heard of it. They're just asking questions. With somebody like Jim Caviezel, he is openly embracing it. He's openly using its catchphrases and its concepts. He's speaking at QAnon conventions. And this film is being marketed to either specific QAnon believers or to people who believe all of the same tenets as QAnon, but claim they don't know what it is.
And The Sound of Freedom does focus on a real issue of sex trafficking. But that theme, it's sort of like that kernel of truth that feeds the QAnon conspiracy theory.
It's not a kernel of truth. Like, we're talking about the actual trafficking of children and an actual operation that saved kids, and an organization that was built out of it that saves children. It drives me nuts because when I talked to Nate Lewis of this and we talked about, the black magic aspect, et cetera, he'll tell you, all right, obviously it's mumbo jumbo. It's not real. It's a shaman trying to make money out of greed on doing some kind of a ritual with a kid, including castration rituals to bless businesses. They won't talk about that. But again, that's what people in the organization are talking about. That's not what CNN wants to focus on. No, they want to focus on QAnon and QAnon conventions. Ooh, have I spoken at evil? QAnon conventions? Ooh.
Tell us how those two things work together.
Sure. And the most durable and the most believable conspiracy theories are not entirely false. There's something in them that is true and the rest of it is false. But the believers point to the one true thing and they say, oh, you don't believe that this particular thing is true. In terms of child trafficking, we know trafficking is real. We know it has real victims. No one is denying that. But these films are created out of moral panics. They're created out of bogus statistics. They're created out of fear. And with something like Sound of Freedom, it specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the high-level elites.
Nothing in this film is a high-level elite thing. Not at all. Street-level crime. I mean, even when they show the child about to be abused, one of the children, they don't allude that this is a powerful politician or someone in Hollywood. It's not those type of parties. But at the same time, see, here's the crazy thing. You could watch something like True Detective, all right? And that's all about human trafficking. They just don't look at the child aspect of it. Well, they do, but not in the second season where, there's basically this prostitution party with the wealthy and the elite out in what seems like a Bohemian Grove-esque establishment. But you don't hear anything about True Detective and wild conspiracy theories. But sure hear it here.
And only people like Tim Ballard and only people like Jim Caviezel, and by extension, only people like the ticket buyer can help bring these trafficking rings down. So there's a very participatory element. You're not just going to see a movie, you're just killing 2 hours on a hot day. You are helping bring down these pedophile rings and save children. Now, it's not true, but it's a very comforting and it's a very warm feeling to have.
Yeah, it's what's not true that you can make a difference today in trying to stop child trafficking, you can. That this shouldn't just be about a movie, but a movement of awareness. It should, 100%. That's real. But again, they don't want you. They don't want you involved in that. All right, I wanted to play this because it looks like this is, this might actually happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it might actually happen.
How real is Zuckerberg versus Musk? Because now we're hearing that like Musk's mom doesn't want him to fight. Like, how real is this thing?
It's very real.
It's very real. The Musker nuts versus Zuckerberg. I don't know what else to say. I mean, talk about the dark cartoon. Can you imagine? I mean, first of all, is Donnie T cage side? How long would this take to put together? Is Donnie T in jail by then? I mean, obviously, if it takes place in the next 6 months to a year, probably can't be in jail, right? If we did a year from now, we'd still be in the election cycle. I mean, think about that. First of all, you have it in the biggest arena possible. So you can sell as many tickets as possible, and the tickets themselves are going to be over the top pricey. Can you imagine how much a ticket to that's going to go for? I mean, there'll be contests. I don't know that a ticket, even in the seats in the nosebleeds, goes for less than $5-10 grand. Not 500 to 1,000, 5-10 grand. I mean, the who's who of the predator class is going to be there. The hardcores are going to be. It's that. It'll truly illustrate the dark cartoon if, in fact, that happens. That's really all I can say about that. Earlier we showed a document that, oh man, dude, I'm telling you, nothing wants to work today, right? Nothing wants to work. There we go. Finally, jeez. We showed the sodium fluoride document. We were talking to Todd McGreevy. I want to show this one because I want to reiterate these authoritative sources, right? The qualitative sources, the ones that are in control of the selfish ledger and all this other Johnny nonsense and the AI that we talk about, told you that the flu disappeared in 2020 to 2021. They told you it totally and completely disappeared and that there were 32 million COVID cases. Again, disappeared from the hemisphere, 32 million COVID cases. Does anybody else have an issue with that? I mean, the flu has never just disappeared off the planet. That's not a real thing. But they made it into a real thing because we're living in the post-truth world. That's the unfortunate reality we are all a part of. So, folks, I want to wrap it up. I want to remind everybody that you can support the broadcast by going to redvoicemedia.com/uncensored, redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. Sign up for the 2 extra premium interviews every single week. And it's $10 a month, or you can try it out for a week for $1. If you want to lock it in, please do so for the year. That's 100 beans for the year. You save $20. But again, you support the broadcast. And I realized today was a shit show. I'm sorry. I apologize for the shit show that we went through today. Just awful. And, I've still got to now edit this together, get out the shit show parts, and put it back up on the other platforms out there. So not the funnest day. I do want to remind everybody I'm also a documentary filmmaker. Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find and Shade the Motion Picture are free right here, right now. Guys, I could not do it without you. I absolutely love you, and I will see you all on the flip side.